Hey guys, time for lymphatic 2. So, last time we talked about lymphatic vessels and the transport, the movement of lymph. Now we got to talk about lymphatic organs. And before we do that, we got to talk about lymphatic tissues. But before we do that, we got to talk about lymphatic cells. So there's several lymphatic cells we're going to have to know. All right? Number 1, we got reticular cells. Reticular cells are a connective tissue cell. They make reticular fibers. We see reticular fibers in here. Reticular fibers are going to support the often relatively soft and squishy lymphatic tissues and organs. Now, seated on the reticular fibers are macrophages. We know macrophages are going to kill foreign things. And not only do they kill things and take them out of service, but they're going to activate the immune system. They're going to say, hey, lymphocytes, look at who I killed. Form a dedicated army to attack them. Another kind of cell that does the same thing are the good old dendritic cells that you met in the integumentary system in AMP1. They're going to do the exact same thing as our macrophages. Slightly different origin for these guys, slightly different cell type, but same overall job. What else do we have as far as lymphatic cells? Well, of course, we can't not include the T lymphocytes. T lymphocytes, T cells for short, are going to kill infected cells, cells that are infected with a virus, for example, or cells that have become cancerous. B lymphocytes, what they do is actually turn into another kind of cell called the plasma cells. And plasma cells, their job is to secrete immune proteins, in other words, antibodies. All right, so as we talk about lymphatic structures, we got to sort of classify them based on where or what type of lymphocyte activity occurred. Okay, so we're going to designate some lymphatic things as being primary lymphatic structures. All right, that means they are sites of lymphocyte production or maturation. And two places qualify as primary lymphatic structures. They are the red bone marrow and the thymus. Meanwhile, secondary lymphatic structures are going to hold your lymphocytes and be involved in the initiation of your immune response. And these organs include lymph nodes, spleen, tonsils, and MALT. MALT is your mucosa associated lymphatic tissue. Okay, so let's talk about the thymus. There's a nice looking thymus right there. The thymus is very active during infancy, in the fetal stages, in the young kids, in other words. The thymus doesn't do any killing. It is a weird immune or lymphatic organ that does no direct fighting, no direct killing. Its job is to train T lymphocytes. It lets T lymphocytes become immunocompetent, all right, able to have an immune function, in other words. Now we see a nice, beautiful thymus. This is a thymus from a kid. Look at the way this giant infant thymus just covers the whole heart. See that heart chilling out beneath it? And by the way, do yourself a favor, pause this and name 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 veins. Should do that totally. All right, this is an infant thymus. Look how purple it is. Why purple? Because this is a place where lymphocytes are going to mature. In particular, T lymphocytes. You ever wonder why T lymphocytes were called T lymphocytes? The T stands for thymus. Okay. As far as blood flow to your thymus is going to need blood flow. It's going to have arteries and veins going to it, of course. But we actually have this special situation called the thymus blood barrier, or the blood thymus barrier, where we make sure that developing T cells aren't going to have a chance to inadvertently be released or inadvertently respond to normal body tissues. So because we're training the soldiers of our immune system, we got to have a special sort of protective situation set up. All right. Look at the young thymus, big and beautiful, versus the old, ugly thymus. This is your thymus if you're a little kid. This is your thymus if you're a grown man. Look how fatty it is, fatty and fibrotic. It doesn't totally go away. It still has pockets of active tissue, and it does do things in the adult. But the majority of its functional active life is in infancy, young kids, which makes sense because shoot, you're going to be exposed to pathogens during birth. I mean, from the get-go, as the baby is being delivered, it is being covered in microorganisms. And so from the get-go, it's got to have trained T cells. So that's why in the fetal period and subsequently in infancy, the thymus has to be so big and so active. All right. We'll tell a sad story about thymuses and infants and cancer, and it's not a fun discussion. We'll talk about it in class. All right, onward to the lymph nodes. Lymph nodes filter your lymph. Okay? They receive lymph from lymphatic vessels. They send lymph to lymphatic vessels. So for example, this lymph node right here in your neck is going to get lymph from this lymphatic vessel. So we would call this lymphatic vessel afferent. Then from this node, oh, so I had that backwards, my bad. We should be going downhill here. Just forget what I just said for a second there. That's the last mistake I'm going to make today, maybe. We'll see. Check out this lymph node, okay? Lymph is flowing down here. So lymph is going to this lymph node from this guy right here. So he is the afferent lymph node. Afferent lymphatic vessel going to this lymph node. Then this guy leaving is the efferent lymphatic vessel. Now bear in mind these are relative designations. All right? For example, this guy right here is afferent to this lymph node, but at the same time it is efferent to that one. Because lymph is going to pass through several lymph nodes, which makes sense because we'll be awesome at doing the filtering. Yeah. So the lymph nodes are all over your body. Main superficial locations are cervical, in your neck, axillary, in your armpit, and inguinal, in your groin. So here is the basic structure of a lymph node. Looks like a little bean. It's a nice little bean. It's going to get lymph from, in this case, 6 afferent lymphatic vessels. It is dumping lymph into one efferent vessel, which of course should be a cleaner one. Notice the afferent vessels outnumber the efferent. This will create a bottleneck in here. It'll slow down flow, which means we'll have more time for analyzing and filtering and cleaning the lymph. Where the efferent one exits, the little indentation here is called the hilum. And the whole lymph node is protected and surrounded by a connective tissue capsule made of good old dense, irregular connective tissue, which sends projections inward to compartmentalize it. And those projections, of course, are called trabeculae. All right, so next time we'll jump into the further discussion of the lymph node, including its cortex and medulla. We'll pick up on that next time we meet. See you later.